Hello, and welcome to our 5th episode of the MC or the MPU. No, the MC
MCU. Macabre.
No, MPU. The Macabre Podcast Universe.
Yeah, we're coming off of pretty strange emotions because we had just watched the Oscars. And
don't date this, Jordan, unless you want to.
I'm just saying it.
Okay.
We're doing a movie that's been out for
since 2011.
8 years.
8 years. Yeah.
Dating ourselves, but having some mixed feelings about this year's Oscar. I guess last year's Oscars, the 91st Academy Awards, had some really great wins that we're very proud of.
And had some wins that we weren't proud of.
Had some
namely,
huge fat duds.
The 4 wins of Bohemian Rhapsody. But we don't have to talk about that.
But this isn't a podcast about Bohemian Rhapsody, nor will it ever be.
Unless they make Fat Bottom Girls, followed by Don't Stop Me Now, and make it a trilogy, in which case then we'll have to cover it. Because we're covering trilogies and beyond, because this is the podcast where we discuss sequels, franchises,
not just sequels,
and series.
It's got to be a trilogy.
But it's got to be a trilogy or more.
Yeah, franchises. To see if they work, if they don't work, if certain movies within the franchises work
really
or don't work.
Yeah. and we started with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're finishing up Phase 1, and we had announced, which we're going to do at the end of this episode, what series we're going to do in between Phase 1 and Phase 2, which I'm very excited.
That we announced that.
I do remember.
That we said that.
Yes. So today is Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yes. So before we get into production stuff.
Okay.
When did you see this movie? First time.
I saw it. Let's see. It came out July 22nd, 2011. So I probably saw it July 24th or something. Okay. I was right there.
And
I remember, I was a young boy. But would we have been juniors?
Yes. Juniors becoming seniors, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And I had been anticipating Captain America for years because I'm a full-blown Spider Boy, and then it probably next in line is Captain America, which we discussed, and I thought, finally here it comes, and I was very, very disappointed.
Okay.
When did you see it?
I saw it in theaters. I don't know how soon after it was released or anything, but this is still around the time where, I went to theaters to see Marvel movies because that's what you did. This is before I really had an opinion about them. My voice just broke like a middle school boy.
But you're not a middle schooler or a boy.
No. But so I went into this just like, you go see Marvel movies in theaters. That's cool.
Yeah.
Go into it. Hated this movie. I was so bored. The only thing I was most excited about was at the end of the movie you saw Daniel Radcliffe's face in the back because he was in Times Square, and Daniel Radcliffe had been on Broadway at the time.
That was
my highlight of the movie.
Okay.
I did not like this movie.
And I didn't either.
Should we state our new opinions now?
Well, I just want to yes. I think so. Going into this rewatch, this
was absolutely thrilling for both of us.
well, hang on. I want to go through my mentality because I was thinking, I was like, this movie, I had some hot takes already prepared of how I would fix this movie and how I'd make it better because I was convinced that it was not a good movie. And then we just watched it, and I kept waiting for me to not enjoy it anymore, and it never happened. And then the credits rolled, and I was like, this is a really good movie. And it's it's up there on the best of Phase 1 for sure.
Anyway, so first time I saw this movie, I had no expectations because I didn't care. Mm-hmm. This movie, my expectations were lower than Thor. Yeah. And my expectations were really low for that rewatch.
Yeah.
And I could watch this movie again. It was so good. And there were a couple times in the movie that I know you weren't there, listener, but hopefully we can recreate it for you because there were a couple times rewatching this movie and they were setting up some things that you see in Infinity War that we were just simultaneously, whoa.
Yeah, I think that this movie, I remember when I was younger and I first watched it, the things I didn't like, I think what I wanted a full-on, front-to-back World War II Captain America movie, and I didn't like the futuristic stuff. I just wanted Captain America in World War II, which is, when you go into a movie with like your exact want in a movie, that's not the best way to do it. So this time, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to like the technology. I'm not going to like Red Skull. I'm not going to like the Infinity Stone stuff. But now, especially after the payoff of Avengers Infinity War, I'm just thinking this Infinity Stone stuff is awesome. Red Skull getting transported into the other dimension.
Because he has that stone, and we realized as we were watching it, and he was using the stone to obliterate people, we realized that he's probably just transporting people to different dimensions rather than killing them. But of course, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but if that's the stone, I'm assuming
something...
that's the power he's using and using that for.
Yeah, there's something there.
Which would just be so much cooler if he was just like disintegrating a person, but transporting them into a different dimension,
which could lead to them fixing issues.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I love it.
Very
Absolutely
cool.
Love
so,
it. Before we get too much into the movie.
Yeah, because we can't talk about our opinions yet.
Can I go on people first?
Yeah, let's hit the people.
Okay, so I'll start with writers. So you have the writers of the screenplay, Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus, who have written together. They write together a lot. They did all of the Chronicles of Narnia, like 1 through 3, Thor: Dark World, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War.
Oh, they wrote them. They wrote. Okay.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense because all those movies are Infinity Stone based, except for Civil
Thor.
and Winter Soldier.
Well, I guess I've never seen Dark World.
But they still like further like the bigger story.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they would be. Okay, interesting.
And then director Joe Johnston, who has his first directing credit as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989.
Wow.
After that, Jumanji.
Okay.
After that, October Sky.
Okay.
After that, Jurassic Park 3.
Bad.
After that, Hidalgo. Love that movie.
Good, yeah.
And
the old V-Man.
The Wolfman.
Don't know.
It's a movie about the werewolf I saw.
Ooh, sounds scary.
Pretty sure that's the one with Benicio del Toro.
No, it's got the B.
I think. And then Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
What?
That's the Nutcracker in the Four Realms guy.
He directed that? Oh, Joe.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's interesting. He'll like direct a movie every 4 or so years, like, or more.
Uh-huh.
So
he's
not just directing all the time.
That's so weird.
So you think he chooses projects a little bit better.
So wait, which one did he do before Nutcracker?
Wolfman.
Okay.
There might have been one in between that I just didn't recognize, but...
That sucks that he did the Four Realms. If only he'd have limited it to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That movie would have been a smashing success.
But he had to go 4?
He had to go for 4.
And then...
That's actually... That was... So when we were getting ready, we were looking at our notes, and Jordan was like, oh my gosh, Mikey, you're not going to believe this about Joe Johnston. And I thought, oh no, is he another, like, he got caught up in Me Too, or he was accused of some stuff, and I was kind of bummed because I kind of like a lot of those movies. And then she goes, no, it's not any of that, but he has some bad. And I'm thinking, what? Okay, it must be a personal life, but to do Nutcracker in the Four Realms, wow.
Yeah, you just weren't thinking in the right realm when I said that.
Oh, wow, I was in a different of the 4.
Yeah. Just not, yeah.
Not in the Nutcracker realm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
for leading man, we have Chris Evans.
Yeah, we got Scott Pilgrim himself.
Yeah, so
not really.
Really, I mean, he did a lot of things before this movie, and I would argue that his breakout role is Fantastic Four, 2005.
Human Torch.
Human Torch. My favorite part of Fantastic Four.
I remember I was livid at the fact that an actor could be in a Marvel movie and then be in another Marvel movie as a different character. I was so upset about that.
Are you still upset?
It's a little weird. It turned out okay, and I really enjoy him as Captain America. So it all turned out okay, but I remember it was just like, what are you doing? You can't... But I think before then I didn't realize that those Fantastic Four never had an intention of being in this series or anything like that. So in my head, it was like, well, they're all in the same universe in the comic books, therefore they all are in the same universe in their movies.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that the movies...
You're just a younger Micah.
Yeah, I've grown.
Yeah. So then after Fantastic Four, he was in Sunshine in 2007.
That's right. Yes, the Danny Boyle movie.
He's been in a ton of stuff in between these times. I'm just like most notable things.
Yeah.
And then Push in 2009.
Yes.
think
That
movie did
movie
well,
has Hayden Christensen in it, right?
Yes. No, that's Jumper. You're thinking of Jumper.
One of them's got to push, one of them's got to jump.
Yep. And then you have Scott Pilgrim in 2010.
Where he's what's his character name? Lucas. I want to say Lucas Haas, but that's an actor.
Okay, hold on. Lucas Lee.
Yes. Which is just such that cameo is better now that he's as famous as he is.
That is so interesting because remember we were watching Scott Pilgrim and we were saying that like, wow, a lot of these actors are really big now who've been in this movie. And then remember I said, think about how great of like a resume builder this movie was for people. Mm-hmm. And he was in this before Captain America, like as an action hero.
Yeah.
Like that's just a great building or stepping stone.
Well, it's weird because when you watch Scott Pilgrim, I think a lot of those people that show up, my head thinks of like there's an added element to how interesting their characters are because of what they went on to do. But when the movie came out, you didn't have like the Captain America baggage, or you didn't have...
Which makes Lucas Lee so much funnier because he is an actual superhero.
Yeah, and so when you go back and rewatch that movie, it actually is like kind of more interesting because a lot of those actors are huge now.
Yeah.
And they play this movie so interesting. Yeah. So watch Scott Pilgrim.
For a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And then Captain America followed Scott Pilgrim.
Okay.
And then I stopped there with him.
We're going to be covering him very extensively.
Yes. So then we have Hugo Weaving, who plays the Red Skull, who was in The Matrix in 1999. Mm-hmm. V for Vendetta, Lord of the Rings. He's Megatron in Transformers, which I didn't know.
Voice of. He's not the actual vehicle,
no,
right?
he transforms. I saw pictures.
Okay.
And then he's also in The Wolfman. And then we have Haley Atwell, who plays Peggy Carter. Is that her name?
Yes.
Before this, she just... it seemed like she did a lot of British TV and film.
Okay.
And then she's in Ant-Man, which I don't remember who she is in Ant-Man. But she's Peggy Carter. I mean, she's Peggy Carter, but I don't remember.
Oh, I think she works with Hank Pym and his wife when they're doing that flashback at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then she's in Christopher Robin as the mom.
Yes.
And then you have Sebastian Stan, who plays Bucky.
He is cool.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah.
He is cool.
Before
Sebastian,
this movie,
I like you.
He was in The Covenant, Rachel Getting Married, which is this weird... Anne Hathaway movie that's like really depressing, and then he's in Hot Tub Time Machine, Black Swan, and then Captain America. I don't remember.
He'd go
him
on to
being
do
in
I,
Black Swan.
Tonya. I just want to mention that movie. If you want to see something strange, just look at Sebastian Stan and I, Tonya. Jordan had to convince me that it was the same actor from Captain America. I had to like look it up and stuff because he does not look like the same person.
But really, the funny
crazy.
thing is, I think he just has a mustache and glasses.
Yeah, he just looks so unassuming.
Yeah,
it's very odd.
Which I think is kind of how that guy. It seemed like that's how the guy was in real life. Mm-hmm. It's just somebody you didn't suspect of anything.
Yeah,
and then I just touched on like Tommy Lee Jones, who was in The Company Men before this movie. I don't know what that is, and then. Stanley Tucci, who before this movie...
I already forgot Stanley Tucci's in this. You always like a little touch of the Tooch. You know what I mean?
You need the Tooch. You need a touch of the Tooch. He was in Burlesque and Easy A. He is hilarious in Easy A.
Oh, I need to watch that movie.
He's hilarious in the movie. And the mom is that woman in House of Cards we don't like, but she's hilarious.
Oh, okay.
In Easy A.
Hey, for the listener, something you won't understand about House of Cards that is a personal opinion of ours that we're not going to elaborate on.
Because it's not a franchise of a movie.
No, it isn't. And I don't think many people are talking about House of Cards anymore.
No.
For various reasons. Okay, so that's what you have. The music is by Alan Silvestri, and I think, he's done the Back to the Future trilogy and the Avengers and Avengers Infinity War. So, he did Ready Player One too. He did Ready Player One too. Cinematography, Shelley Johnson. So this one is another one that is Marvel Studios and it's distributed by Paramount Pictures. So Disney doesn't have... We know that Avengers is when Disney now owns like the distribution and all of that. Let's talk budget and box office, though. This movie has a budget of a whopping 140 million, which is pretty substantial. And then it has a total domestic gross of $176,654,505. And then it would go on to get a worldwide gross of $370,569,774. And you know what is so bonkers is that compared to numbers now, that's not that crazy.
Yeah.
That's like a standard low run-of-the-mill Marvel movie at this point. That's like your Ant-Man and the Wasp.
It's like it's still proving itself.
Yeah. But this I thought was kind of interesting. Let's see. Let me scroll down here. Joe Johnston talked about how, which I kind of want to touch on as we go, the script, a lot of it was not just about making a movie about a patriot, which is easy to kind of come across that, but they wanted to show how someone who wants to be a good person and is trying to be a good person, that goes from them before they have the serum until after they have the serum. And, you know, that was why Stanley Tucci was trying to make sure he was a good moral person. And it's not just about being American. You know, it's about being a moral, upright person. Yeah. But we're going to go back. In 1997, Marvel was in negotiations with Mark Gordon and Gary Levinson to produce a Captain America movie. And those guys also produced some of Steven Spielberg's movies. So they did like... where is it? They did, they did Steve Jobs. They did that, produced it, Saving Private Ryan, The Day After Tomorrow. This is one of the guys, but I believe they work together, so we can lump them together, which kind of makes sense. Them producing Saving Private Ryan, you're thinking, oh, now do Captain America. That's like a very natural progression. And then they made the movie in 1997, and it came out wrong.
Oh.
No. They were working on it, and Larry Wilson and Leslie Bohem were set to write a script. But then in May 2000, Marvel teamed with Artisan Entertainment to help finance the film, and then a lawsuit arose between Marvel Comics and Joe Simon over the ownership of the character.
Oh, interesting.
So then it caused the film to be put on hold, and the lawsuit wasn't settled until September of 2003. And then in 2005, Marvel received a $525 million investment from Merrill Lynch, allowing them to independently produce 10 films, including Captain America. Yeah. Not 10 Captain America movies. So then Paramount Pictures... well, we're up to 3, so who knows. Paramount Pictures agreed to distribute the film, and originally it was going to be a standalone film. And Kevin Feige said half of the movie was going to be in World War II and the other half in the modern day. Yeah. So that was kind of the original idea.
I'm glad it wasn't.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other producer, Avi Arad, our boy from Incredible Hulk, who I don't believe produced this movie eventually. No. This is just back when he was slated as a producer. He cited the Back to the Future trilogy as an influence on the movie, but the one that they were working on. And they hope to release it in 2008 with John... And then Jon Favreau approached Arad to direct the film as a comedy.
No.
But instead, he made Iron Man.
Yes.
Weird. And then David Self was hired to write the script. And then Joe Johnston met. And then, of course, David Self didn't write the script.
Yeah.
So this movie has been through a lot of iterations.
Yeah.
And then finally, after the Writers Guild strike in 2007, they were able to finally get the project going. And then, let's see. Yeah, I think that about covers it. So it's just been in a lot of iterations, and then finally it happened. And I remember as a kid, actually, I don't think you know about this. There was a website, I don't remember what it was called, but it had all like comic book news.
Okay.
And I would check all the time. And I remember there was at one point they were talking about a Brad Pitt starred Captain America.
Weird.
Which makes sense to me. I remember being
at the
like,
time?
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
This was like in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm having a false memory there, or maybe I just wanted him to, but I don't think I was smart enough to like think
That
of
would've been, like,
casting choices.
Post Fight Club Brad Pitt, though. I think that would have been a weird choice.
Yeah,
Not
well, because
saying
he's
that
kind of
he has
becoming
to
like
do
a bad boy,
Tyler
you know?
Durden anymore. That's not what I'm saying. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It'd
no,
be weird for his image, I feel like.
Yeah, totally. But I remember that was like probably my number one, because after I saw the Spider-Man movies, I just got into comic books, and I was all Marvel. And so I would check this website, and there'd be news, you know, like, oh, they're working on a Black Panther movie, or they're working on an Iron Man movie, or they're, you know, and so I'd consume all this news. I'm realizing this is probably where my love for checking movie news began, was because of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie.
I don't know if love's the right word, but...
But I would check and check and check. And then finally, when this one was announced, it was very highly anticipated for me. But I think it sort of died out because I was in high school and I was too cool for comic books and all that crap. But
doesn't seem like it.
Not really. But finally, that's where we leave the past and we can jump into the movie. The movie. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sorry, I just got something in my eye.
That's bad radio,
I've been
Jordan.
listening. You know that, right?
Let's talk about it after the podcast. No, I'm totally kidding. I know. So the movie begins.
Yeah. Got a very small Chris Evans, but his head's not small. Just his body.
we're not there yet. Not yet. There yet. That is. Oh wait, no, maybe we are. No, because isn't the first scene of the movie kind of cool, where they show up at the iceberg?
Yes.
And it's modern day, and they're like, wait, I think we found something, and they're going around, and it's shot very Spielberg-y.
Yes.
It was so cool. And they're looking around, and then they see a shield, and then it cuts to a guy in Germany, and this tank breaks open this chapel.
Yes.
And,
duh.
Yeah,
right.
Which
sets up
again,
the movie.
like when this is going, I'm thinking, okay, this is a pretty cool intro to the movie.
Yeah, I was pretty hooked at this point.
Because Red Skull gets out, and he's asking for this thing from this German guy.
Which I don't think I noticed this the first time I saw it, but you can see that Hugo Weaving has like stitches on the side of his face, which I saw that and I was like, wait, when does he become Red Skull? I thought that was a transformation that we saw.
I thought so too. I had forgotten.
And then you find out that he's Crystal Skull the second you see him. Or not Crystal Skull. We're not talking about that yet.
We will eventually, though.
But yeah.
I just realized that was one of my biggest things, is I wanted him to be the Red Skull the whole movie, because I really like the Red Skull character.
I thought it was a pretty good reveal, though.
It was pretty cool. I think when you look back on it, you're like, it's just a cool movie.
Honestly, the makeup's not bad.
It's
that
not
was my
bad.
least favorite part too. It looked so bad to me. But I didn't know anything about Captain America or Marvel at all. So I'm just like, so now you're trying to get me to believe that this guy has a red head?
Yeah,
like
and there isn't really. There's not
seen.
really an explanation for why.
No,
we hear why, but we don't. It's not like why.
It was very jarring. But then seeing it this time around, it was like, all right, I'm giving it to you, sure.
And so we do the ice recovery.
Yes.
And oh wow, without even checking my notes, I wrote Spielberg-y. That's
good for you.
Yeah, but the scene where he goes into the church and that he finds the
Infinity Stone.
The Tesseract, which we later find out has the Infinity Stone within it. He grabs it.
Uh-huh.
And I think they kill the people who are in the church, and it already right away you have the like Nazi vibe.
Uh-huh.
You're like, oof. And you see the insignia of the Hydra, which will come into play, the organization.
Later in the movie, right?
No, I think you see the Hydra like pretty right off the bat. The little octopusy
is it
thing.
in any other movies, or is it just this movie?
It comes into play again in Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay, I just don't remember.
Oh, and in Avengers, they find the Hydra gear, and Captain America is very confused by it.
Yeah.
But
okay.
we're not on that episode yet.
No.
And we have not watched the movie yet. Wink. This is a note I made. When we meet Steve Rogers, and you were about to jump into it, he has a very small body, and
which is canon.
Now I think this is a pretty good movie. It is not without its flaws though, and one of the flaws is this is the worst body ever made. He suffers from giant head syndrome.
It's not small body syndrome. It's giant head syndrome.
Because his head is normal. But
his head's big. His body looks normal. I know what you're saying.
His body looks like they put a 12-year-old body on him.
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
I just sometimes when you watch a movie, you just think, why didn't they split the difference?
Yeah.
why didn't they just? You could have
like,
made him look
the,
like
the
me.
animation itself, or whatever the effect is, it actually doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look that dated, but it's so disproportionate.
He's so small.
Which
It
is
is
probably
laughable.
the
It's
point that they're
laughable.
like, let's make it smaller than even smaller.
Do you
Just
think-
because when he's
do you-
big, it's
do you
so
think
much
the
bigger.
director's like sitting there with the visual effects? Joe Johnston. This is before his great Nutcracker masterpiece, and he's going smaller.
Turn
And
the
they're
dial a little bit smaller.
and they go smaller, and then they're like, "Do you think that's good?" He looks kind of like the guy sitting there. He's going, he looks kind of like me. I mean, he's not muscular or anything. Smaller, a little bit smaller. That's good. Actually,
Yeah.
one more small.
That probably happened.
It's just, you would think that someone would have watched it and just been like, hey, no. Like, there's that scene where he's in the car with Peggy Carter, and the car looks like it's, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a whole room.
Yeah.
And he's just this little
Well,
boy
don't you think that one
inside
was
the back
also
of a car.
shot with it as an illusion? Because it kind of looked like she was sitting like farther forward than him.
Yeah, I think
So
I
then
think that's
that with
some
the effect just made it
pretty
a little bit
weird
weirder.
visual effects, because it's just a little boy next to a normal sized woman, but
Yeah.
he's supposed to be the same age as her.
Yeah.
So the effects, the effects actually aren't that bad. They don't make sense to me,
Yeah.
to my eyes, and I think it's very goofy looking.
But right off the bat, Peggy Carter, she's great. She's pretty cool.
yeah, I think I don't remember her popping so much when I
Me
watched
neither.
the movie, but I enjoyed her.
And then Bucky is in it pretty soon too, pretty early on.
Because then we go to we see that Steve Rogers is trying to be in the army. He wants to be in the army. It's World War II, but he has like bad lungs and he has asthma. He's weak.
He would just die the second he got out there, or he probably wouldn't even make it through training. That's probably all the things are that guy when he's like, I'm saving your life.
Little do they know that Hacksaw Ridge is gonna go right through training.
Yep. But yeah. So the Bucky and Steve Rogers go to the Stark.
Yeah, and before
Fair.
that, we see that Steve Rogers gets beat up for being patriotic, and he keeps trying, and Bucky grabs him, and he's like, "Dude, you can't fight this guy."
Yeah.
And he's getting beat up. So they're doing the thing about the movie that I will say, which it's very they use caricatures and like shortcuts so that you know who all the characters are, and I don't think that's bad. Because I think they use it well, and it's an interesting movie, and it explores some fun ideas. I mean, if you're looking for it like from a drama perspective, it fails because
But this movie's not a drama.
but it's not supposed to be. That's the point. But I think you can look at it two ways, and I think as a kid, I wanted it to not be cheesy, to not have like shortcuts and actors. I didn't want that. And now I watch it and I'm like, well, this movie's supposed to be that. Why do I have a problem with that? This is the intention.
Yeah.
So,
Which kind of brings you to, they're at the Stark Fair.
Yeah.
Which you see in Iron Man 2. But, I mean, it was happening
which
so
is
far
a
back
cool
then.
connection.
Yeah, but that kind of brings us to our second... Well, I don't know, but I think I am speaking for you as well. The person they chose to play the younger Stark,
Howard
Tony's
Stark.
dad, very confusing. I'm very curious why they chose this guy. Not that he was a bad actor. We're not doing on his quality of acting.
No.
But he looks so vastly different because they showed Howard Stark in Iron Man 2 in that video.
Who's played by... I'm going to pull it up. Keep talking about
But
it.
yeah, this guy, and that guy, we confirmed, like, that guy was in his 40s. This Stark is in his, like, 20s. So it's like, okay, so that is, significantly younger. So you should get a younger actor.
So we have the older Howard Stark is John Slattery, who is in Mad Men.
Yeah.
And he is like a white-haired guy.
Very average, just very normal looking. Not that the other guy's not normal looking. He's normal looking. But the other guy that they choose...
Who is Dominic Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
He looks... and he just looks not even a shred like Howard Stark in his 40s. Not only that, I think they picked someone who is like as ethnic.
Well, he is from London.
Okay.
But I don't know where.
But I don't know. He just doesn't look anything. The funny thing is he looks more like Tony Stark than the other guy.
Yeah.
Funny thing. So I wonder they were basing it on that. But they don't even look a little bit like the other guy.
You know what I wonder? You know what may have happened? Hang on a second. Oh my gosh, I think I cracked this whole thing wide open. So Iron Man 2 comes out in 2010. So they would have been shooting that in 2009 or 2008. I'm sure we said on the episode. I don't remember when. So Captain America, they were shooting in 2008 and maybe 2009. So that scene could have been where they hired John Slattery, could have been a scene that was like a reshoot.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the original movie or was late in production, and they probably already cast Dominic Cooper.
Yeah.
Now, you'd think thered still be a connection, but maybe they just figured it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
That's my
theory. And I don't know what other people thought, if it was obvious to them or anything. It was just kind of funny.
Well, when I Googled it, there was a lot of people asking why the actors look so different. So I think people...
I think if he had just been in that one scene at the beginning of the movie, it'd be fine. But he plays, like a pretty big side character role.
And I think he stars in Agent Carter as well, the TV show.
Yeah, so he creates a lot of things. He creates the shield for Captain America.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pretty important part in the movie, so it's pretty interesting. But anyway, so they're at the fair. Steve Rogers is going to try and enlist again at the fair. Bucky's like, let's go dance with these girls. Steve Rogers is clearly not interested. He's interested in being in the army. He's not interested in dancing with girls. Denied, again, when he's trying to enlist. But Stanley Tucci notices him.
Yeah.
And is like, what are you willing to do? Like, how much are you willing to do to be put in the army? So he passes him, and he goes to boot camp, to which he struggles because he can't keep up with people. People also make fun of him, Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
So it's even harder for him. But you show
and that's where Tommy Lee Jones comes in, which
yes.
I think he's very well cast in this movie.
I think he's funny. He's funny, but it shows a good character. It continues the character development of Steve Rogers, because even though people are purposely trying to get him down by obstructing his training or hurting him, he'll just keep getting up and going back. And he's using his brains as well, because if he can't use his physicality, he can use his intelligence. So he passes Stanley Tucci's test to test him with Stark's serum.
Well, before we get to there's that scene. I just want to point it out. It's very funny. Is that scene where the recruiter, or not the recruiter, but one of the colonels or whatever they're called, drives the car up, and he goes, now there's a flagpole over there, and he goes, no one has ever been able to get that flag, but whoever does gets to drive back with Peggy here. And so all the guys try and climb it, and then he walks up, and the music has the blaring army horns, and the snare is going, and he walks up and pulls the pin, and the flag falls down. The pole comes down, and he grabs the flag right off of the ground and hands it to him and jumps in the car. Yeah. And it is it might be the most dramatic scene in the movie. Yeah. And it's just kind of fun. I wish it had happened just a little differently or something. I don't know.
It was great. I thought because the music was swelling so loudly, it was funny.
It's just a little much, but
yeah, I mean, it's showing him using his strengths.
Yeah.
To be better than other people. So then he is being used to be tested, not really sure what he's getting himself into, but willing to do anything he can to be better, to fight in the army, to fight for America. And what that results in is his tiny body becoming a very big body.
Yeah, they use the super soldier serum.
And his head is finally proportionate to it. That's what they really do for him.
Yeah, they just proportionalize him.
Yeah.
And, so he becomes Captain America.
Yeah.
And then this guy who's in the science experiment...
Oh, wait, but they do that funny thing. That he takes off his shirt, but he doesn't take off his pants, and he's wearing a belt. Doesn't remove his pants at all. And he goes through this whole process, and he's huge now. At least they made his pants shorter. But the belt would have ripped through the belt. Yeah. His waist isn't going to stay as small as he was when he was a tiny person. So within things like that happen in movies, it's just
It's
Sure,
funny.
okay.
It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things. Like those are the things I get mad at people for getting hung up on. But it's funny to talk about.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just like, well, at least you made his pants shorter.
Yeah.
At least you know that you can't just put him in his underwear.
But then a spy comes down, shoots all the people in there,
Steals some of the serum.
Steals the serum. Stanley Tucci dies, which is
Good scene.
It's a good scene. Yeah. How does he have any last words?
He doesn't talk. That's why it's good.
Yeah.
Because it's also, I feel like, good story writing. Because Stanley Tucci is a pretty well established actor at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But he's only in basically the first act of the movie. This kind of signals the end of the first act. So it's not like he's going to be important for the rest of the movie. Not even going to be important for the rest of the franchise. So if they were to give him a line, I feel like it would have made his character too important.
Yeah, and it would have had to be one of those things where he's like, never let love die. And then he'd like remember when the plane is crashing at the end or something dumb like that.
Which it was just... if they did that would have been wrong. It should have just been that between him and Peggy, which is what they did, which was the smart thing. But yeah, so then he goes chasing after the guy, which is his first test of strength.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
Where he's running really fast and the guy jumps in a submarine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started fist pumping, I think, and jumped up because
of the submarine.
I was like, well, no, he does that one thing. He's chasing this guy. Captain America's chasing this German spy, and this German spy grabs this little boy and puts a gun to him, and Steve's going, no, don't shoot, and then he throws him in the water, and they subvert that trope, and Captain America runs up to the water, and he's like, and the kid just waves at him and says, hey, I can swim, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then he just keeps chasing the guy. The guy jumps in a secret submarine, to which I'm going, that's freaking cool.
Very James Bond.
Cap just jumps into the water, goes down, breaks open the submarine, grabs the guy, throws him up, and then he's like, who sent you? And then the guy breaks a tooth off.
The cyanide tooth.
And he's got cyanide tooth, baby. And he does it. And I have a note here that says, cyanide is cool 100% of the time in movies.
Cyanide tooth is what you mean?
Just cyanide in general, baby.
Okay.
You put cyanide in a movie, Mike is going to like it. Cyanide in
Hear
movies
that, filmmakers?
is 100% cool 100% of the time. More cyanide in movies.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah, and he starts foaming at the mouth and stuff. And
yeah, it's like a dog.
It's
with rabies.
It's great.
But yeah, so first test of strength, showing his strength, and then what do they do with him? They make him a touring like morale booster.
And this is now montages. Let's talk about montages.
Yes.
Montages are a thing that happen in movies, and sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're pointless, sometimes they're Bohemian Rhapsody and they're just touring and you're like, I've seen this 1,000 times in music biopics. Why do you keep showing me just montages of a band being successful? This isn't furthering the plot or anything. And sometimes, rarely, which Captain America does, you have a great montage that is both funny, heartwarming, and shows character development and story development.
Yes.
And this movie does that because he starts touring and you can tell that he's not that into it.
Well, it's almost like they're like, okay, we need you to do this little thing. Like you're going to get people to enlist. Like you remember how important that is, right? Just do this for a little bit and then we'll get you out there. And that's kind of how it feels like he's acting. Where he's just like, yeah, I'm doing my job. This is so great. I'm a patriot. Although he's never seen combat. But it's like he has that naivety in his eyes where he's like, I'm going to be out there with you guys soon. And then when he gets out there, he's still not fighting. He's still the morale booster, to which no one cares. They just want the women, like the women, like cheerleaders.
Yeah, the men in the army. Once he finally goes overseas,
and he's, I think, realizing like I have no idea what it's like. Still,
yeah. And then that is when he finds out. Oh yeah, and I said this too. The going from the comedy of him doing all those shows and singing the songs and punching Adolf Hitler very poorly choreographed a bunch of times, and it says the different cities. It's just very charming.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to him saying like, and I know what it's like because I've punched Adolf Hitler before, and all the army. Even the colors are different. It's dark, it's drabby, and the soldiers are just going, bring out the girls. Like, you have no idea what you're talking
right.
about.
And he
This
doesn't.
isn't-
And I think, that really gets to him. And I remember that one part that they did really well, too, was one of the cities that he's in, and he punches Hitler. But remember the kids in the audience, like, as Hitler's approaching him, the kids are like, he's behind you.
Yeah.
He's behind you. I just thought that was such a nice touch to show, like, because this is still in America.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's doing such a great job, like this whole production.
Yeah.
And he punches him, and these kids are like, Captain America beat him. That's awesome. And then, like we've said, like then he goes to the battle line, like the like battle lines, basically to perform to these people, and they're not even close to what those children are like.
Mm-hmm. And also, the kids have Captain America comic books, which is a little tough to put my mind around.
Don't think about it too hard.
So there are Captain America comic books in the world of the MCU.
Yes.
Which makes sense, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
they do that in Logan.
Yeah, I know. All that meta stuff, like, when I think about it, it's a little too much, because it's like, which are they reading the same Captain America books that we're reading?
They did that really well.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was like, those aren't real.
Yeah.
Love that.
It was very cool. But hang on a second.
Yeah.
I gotta stay on this.
Sorry, I really
comic
like
book
Logan.
thing. Because if they're reading Captain America comic books, are they, and let's just assume they're reading the same Captain America comic books that we're reading, does that mean that our fictionalized Captain America is also fictionalized in his own universe because he hadn't gone to war yet? And does that also mean everyone knows about his serum? And does that also mean that everyone knows his name is Steve Rogers?
This is what I'm thinking. Kids have those comic books. They're propaganda. Because it's showing him beating Germans. I think it begins and stops
well,
there.
yeah, but I mean, it looked a lot like the comic books I read when I was a kid.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because I don't know.
I can't get my mind wrapped around
well,
that.
let's move a little forward. So, meanwhile, during these montages, meanwhile in the timeline of the story, Hugo Weaving, Red Skull Man, he with the Tesseract is trying to harness its power because he wants to have power. And he has that German doctor helping him.
And they do that thing, and I don't like this in movies, where the guy's like, his doctor's helping him, and he's like, I have the power up to 60%. And then he walks over, and he goes, I didn't come this far to only go 60%. And he just goes to 100. And I'm just thinking, you're a scientist. That's part of who you are. You can wait like 1 minute to just slowly go up and not risk any damage.
That's why he is a Red Skull and you don't.
Yeah, I guess so.
But that's that set design of like those things of the like
modern technology is pretty cool.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
Oh, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Well, I understand that they're using this. They're trying to harness this power that's magical. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cooler if it looked like they were using the day's methods. Like yeah, it is revolutionary for the time, maybe even revolutionary for us, but I don't think that they had the technology to like have everything such smooth steel and such like round curves for all these things.
Maybe I misremember. I remember it not to like, for my aesthetic, it kind of like mixed the styles well, but maybe I'm missing,
and maybe it did, but not enough for me. It was just too modern. But I understand that was probably a intentional choice.
Yeah,
that it was more modern than usual, and it's not like a deal breaker for me. It's just not my preference.
Yeah, and so now that we're on to Red Skull a little bit, I think that Hugo Weaving is doing a great thing referencing Blank Check here. He is bathing in the river of ham.
Yeah.
He is hamming it up.
Yeah.
But in all the right ways. It's like he knows what movie he is in.
Yeah.
And he's not going too over the top.
Yeah.
But he's like soaking up the scenes, and he's
maniacal.
He's just short of twirling his mustache, but we need a mustache twirler in the movie, so it's good.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy his performance in this movie.
I think it also was reminiscent of like 1940s. Thing, like cinema type of thing. So I think he's acting to that too, which just works so well.
Another cool thing they do in this movie, which is kind of a side note here, is the way they light Steve Rogers is very old looking. If you look at him, especially even compared to other characters in the movie, he has like a classic, like a poster look to him.
Poster boy.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
But then so now cut to Cap. He is over there. He's like, I hear that this troop has been captured and Bucky's in that troop. And he goes, I'm going to go get him. And they're saying, no. And he goes,
behind enemy lines.
And he has Howard Stark and Peggy drop him off. He jumps in and Peggy goes, are you sure you can do this? And he goes, I've knocked out Adolf Hitler over 200 times.
Great line.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
And he jumps out and
that's when he goes into that prison, which is where all the people are. And the first person he sees is that guy with a bowler hat on. And I was confused because because I watching the movie and I'm like, why would they put him in a bowler hat? And you said so that we know who that is.
Yeah.
Which is true. And that is the absolute correct answer to that question. But I think that is like the most annoying, distracting thing that they could design us. He already has a dumb mustache. Just use the mustache. Why does he need a bowler hat? Like, this guy went over to France or Germany to fight Nazis and he couldn't leave without his bowler hat.
No, it's his lucky hat, probably.
And it also confused me more because he was American. Because him wearing that dumb bowler hat, I'm like, oh, was he rescuing civilians? And then he starts talking and I'm like, did this guy really not even try to have a French accent?
Yeah.
As he's rescuing these people? And then so then he kind of creates this little his own band of brothers in this rescue mission. Doesn't find Bucky. Thinks Bucky's dead. But so we get this
here's
ragtag
what's weird,
team.
Though. Now this will be the second time in phase 1. Well, not in phase 1, but in a later phase that they messed this up, and it's both in the same movie. An actor by the name of Kenneth Choi is a character named Jim Morita in Captain America: The First Avenger. And he is out here just Morita-ing it up. And he is just one of the guys that helps them out. Oh, this is even weirder. So, okay, I'm not explaining this well. So this actor, he's Mr. Morita. And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, the same actor is a character by the name of Principal Morita.
Huh?
So does that mean...
Does he play his grandpa, you think?
Is he the grandpa?
Yeah, he totally is. That's pretty cool.
Why
did they do that for Martin Starr?
I know, I don't know.
No, because remember in Incredible, though, they didn't give him a name. They just gave him, computer nerd or something.
Yeah, but no, remember when I looked him up on the Marvel Wikipedia?
He had a name.
He had a name, and they were both different. So, Morita... Principal. This will take a second.
I will say that I was not a fan of his haircut in the movie. It was very 2011. It was just kind of a shaggy haircut, which I don't buy it.
Okay,
for a
so
soldier in the 1940s.
Private James Jim Morita was a member of the Howling Commandos in World War II and the team's communication officer. Rescue mission. He helped with Cap. During the time. Okay. After the war, Morita died after the war as Shield's files given to Steve Rogers. When he awoke in the 21st century, reported Morita's status as deceased. His descendant, the principal of Midtown School of Science and Technology, kept a picture of him in his office. So they did. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut. That is if you want to nail someone to the wall on a trivia, if they think they know stuff, say who is Jim Morita's who is Jim Morita first of all, and then say who is his grandson and which movies were they in.
Yeah.
Say it right now. Find someone and quiz them. Okay, so then he gets his team, the Howling Commandos, which is never said in the movie, but that's a thing.
Okay.
And they break out and they beat all the Nazis. And it's very cool.
Yeah.
And they come back. And then they hint at this little love triangle between...
Well, wait. He comes back and then Tommy Lee Jones is like, okay, this guy's a soldier.
Yeah.
And he basically allows him to be an Avenger.
Oh.
Of some kind.
Yeah, maybe the first, really.
Yeah.
My money, he's the first Avenger.
Wait, love triangle between...
Remember,
that blonde
it's a slight
girl?
It's a slight love triangle where Peggy and Captain America are like kind of having a thing, and then she sees Captain America getting kissed by Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones, and then she gets all mad, even though they don't have anything. I
never like it when they do those things in movies.
No, and then he's like, "Well, what about you and Howard Stark?" And she's like, "I can't believe you'd even ask." And I go, "Why is this in the movie? Just cut this from the movie. There's no reason for this to be in the movie."
Well, I just hate it too, because it's like,
and they don't even explore it enough.
You see his acting. He's kissing this girl who like came on to him, and based on what we know, like, this is probably the first woman that's ever kissed him. So you see that she's kissing him, and then he's like, he's enjoying it. And that's just the annoying part to me. Like, well, actually the whole thing is annoying to me.
Yeah.
But she sees him not only kissing a woman, but it looks like he's enjoying it because he is. Which is like, sure.
She didn't have dibs on him or anything.
Yeah.
But then they did, and then he's mad. It's just kind of, and then it doesn't go anywhere. There's no exploration of the love triangle.
And it kind of bugs me that they hired that girl just to come on to him. Like, they hired her, that they wrote her into the movie for that reason. That's the only thing that she serves.
Yeah. So
I just think it's kind of weak.
Yeah, that scene is like, oh boy, is this movie going to start getting bad?
He gets the shield.
It doesn't. He gets a shield from Howard Stark.
Which is made out of what?
Vibranium.
Which is from what?
Wakanda.
Forever.
Which is also what Wolverine's claws are made out of.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to double check all that information right now, though. Loading it now.
Probably should have done this before.
No. It's a fictional metal appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. Vibranium is associated with Black Panther, as is his suit made from vibranium. Maybe it's just that.
Oh.
Let's see. What is...
I guess that would make sense, though.
Wolverine claws.
Wolverine, like, grows those things.
Yeah, but he's injected with, I think, vibranium, and that's what it is.
What?
Wolverine claws made of. Here we go. Claws are a mutation. Adamantium is what those are made out of.
Oh.
That sounds made up.
Anymore.
Just kidding. They're both made up.
Okay, what happens after he gets the shield?
Let me look at my notes. Oh, he doesn't find Bucky, and they're pretty sure he's dead.
Yep.
And there's that great scene. I think this is cool where he's trying to get drunk, and he can't get drunk.
Because he's too strong.
Because his metabolism is too fast.
His muscles are too big.
And I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I agree.
That he can't get drunk, and it shows a lot that like this character...
He has to be pure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
His body won't allow him not to be.
Yeah. That's even better than what I was going to say.
Shut up, whatever you were going to say.
Yeah. And another thing that I freaking love about the way his character progresses throughout the entire series, and I'm talking all of Marvel, is he starts out as this, like, I am a patriot. I represent America, like the moral goodness of America. And as it progresses, he also progresses in what the ideal American thinking person should be. So when the government, like in this movie, if the government told him to do something, since they were on the right side of history, we think of the government as good. So yes, he would do it. But when it starts getting into the like Patriot Act age and the post 9/11 age, maybe America isn't always on the right side of history. So he begins questioning it. And that's what I think the message of Captain America is this is what a real American should look like, they should think for themselves. And sometimes that aligns with the government, and that's great. But when it doesn't, and like with the Registration Act for the superheroes, I'm jumping ahead and I'll cover it more later. In Civil War with the Registration Act, he knows it's wrong, and he's thinking with his brain, and he goes against the government. Captain America going against America, that's pretty cool. That's good character writing, and that's one of the reasons why I really like Captain America as a character.
You're so patriotic.
Yeah, I'm just such a patriot, and I just love talking about my patriotism.
Okay, so what's going on with Red Skull dude?
So I mean, we can kind of probably just skip ahead to the end, kind of. I don't really remember.
Well, there's they find him in a warehouse, or he finds Bucky in that area, saves Bucky. Oh yeah, saves Bucky. And then he sees that the Red Skull is getting away. And he's like, I have to stop him. He's
Oh,
the
yeah.
cause of all of this. And then he rips off his face. And I was like, this is a lot cooler than I remember it being. And
he jumps over the fire, and they cut away from it so that it doesn't look cheesy.
yes.
Even though it's a crazy jump,
Yes.
but he's a super soldier.
So Red Skull gets away.
Yeah, but they've captured his scientist from
Yes.
earlier.
Yes.
And he doesn't have a cyanide pill, and Tommy has a great scene where he's
Great
eating
scene.
steak.
And he actually eats.
But then, kind of skipping ahead, there's a spaceship, and they're going to throw, or not a spaceship, but a big aircraft, and they're going to do bombs everywhere, and Red Skull's
They're
going
like
to do
labeled
it.
for the country or for the city.
Yeah.
And so, pretty cool scene as these men are trying to board these missiles. And and Captain America's trying to stop all of them. And there's that really cool scene because there's music carries throughout most of this movie, but that one scene, when one of the missiles gets released,
Yeah.
and one of the men is in it flying it, and he stays on top fighting with another man on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's the first time in a Captain America movie when a guy gets thrown into the turbine of a plane and blood goes everywhere. And I'm so shocked that they show that. So then that happens, and then he's trying to get the other guy to stop. Doesn't he like rip him out of the seat or something?
Yeah. And then he gets in
flies
and
the plane.
flies the bomb back
Yeah.
into the plane.
Which is but yeah, when that scene was happening, there was no music. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
There was no music, so you just hear intense wind and them hitting the missile when their bodies were hitting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really, really great sound.
Yeah,
for
and
that
it's
scene.
it's kind of reminiscent of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, like the guy getting in the turbine, getting all shredded up while he's waiting for him.
I don't remember that.
You don't
I just don't
remember the most iconic turbine shredding scene of all time? There's been a lot of them by now. It's the most iconic, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Sorry, I just don't remember.
But
yeah, so then
when
flies
he
it
was
back into the missile
yeah.
or into the plane, goes up, finds Red Skull.
And then Red Skull, there's all this stuff.
There's a fight scene because there
Fight
has
scene.
to be one.
And it's cool.
Yeah.
And we also glossed over the fact that Bucky died and is never in the series again,
did he
unfortunately. He fell off of that train that he saved him from.
Oh yeah.
Folks, we did watch this 1 week ago, so if we're a little scattered, forgive us.
Yeah, Bucky dies.
Yeah, and he's not
Period.
back in the series. That's it for him. As
Ever.
far as I know.
Yeah,
As far as I know. I mean, I guess we'll see if there's any sort of thing.
Yeah. So then going back to where we're currently at, fighting Red Skull. I keep wanting to call him Crystal Skull.
Yeah. And then he grabs the Space Stone, which is the one where you can do portals to different areas. That's what that stone controls.
The Tesseract.
The
Wait.
Tesseract. Yeah, he holds on to it. It disintegrates him, and it opens up like a portal that looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy, like Infinity War area. And this is when Jordan and I are like, no way, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then
Light
he
bulbs are going off.
disintegrates, and you're like, okay, he's
But he doesn't
dead.
disintegrate. What he's doing is he's moving location and moving dimension.
Yeah.
And he becomes that guardian of that mountain.
The guardian of the Soul Stone.
For the Infinity Stone.
Which is freaking cool.
Yeah, it makes it so folklore.
Yeah, I love it.
I like poop my pants.
Oh my gosh, we got to wear diapers when we watch Avengers.
So then when he leaves, that portal like closes, and the Tesseract, you see like melting
falls through the plane.
and Captain America kind of looks at it and is like, not my problem.
Yeah.
My problem right now is to make sure that this plane does not explode or detonate any of these missiles, nuclear missiles, mind you.
Yeah.
So he flies it into the ocean.
Yeah, and as he's doing it, he has a scene.
It's emotional.
Probably, I'm so far the most emotional. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe like the best acted scene of the series so far, or
I heard-
maybe not acting, but just like the best emotional scene of the
Yeah.
series so far, where he's on the phone, and the whole movie they've been talking about dancing and how he's never danced with a girl.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for the right one, and then he goes, Peggy, I'm going. I'm not going to make it back or something. And she goes, but what about that dance? And he goes, why don't we meet at this street at this time on this day? And all of these things. And then the radio transmission just goes, and it's pretty touching.
And she breaks down, and it's so wonderful.
And I was pretty close to a tear.
Yeah.
And then we cut to 60 years later, he wakes up in a bed. What's this? and this woman comes in, and she
there's a radio playing.
There's a radio playing a
I don't
game.
remember who, but someone just won the World Series, I believe, or just won a baseball game, and it's definitely whatever from the 40s.
Yeah. And then this woman comes in, and I thought this was such a cool touch. Go back and watch this scene, listener. When he wakes up, the woman who walks in
is who we're talking to.
Yes, Dan and Chris and John and Tim or Evan.
Yeah.
Whichever one is filling in at the time. This woman walks in, and she looks weirdly modern, but wearing old clothes.
Yes.
I'm not really sure how they
It might have been her makeup somehow.
But yeah, she looks weirdly
also,
modern.
Her hair was really long. That wasn't very common back then.
Yeah. And then he goes, I've heard this game before. This has already happened. And then he breaks out and runs into, breaks out, and you see that they were going to, slowly integrate him into modern society because they got him out of the ice. And then he walks into Times Square.
Through a wall.
Yeah. And he walks out into Times Square, and he's so confused. And that scene is so cool. And Nick Fury says something. I don't remember.
I feel like I would just drop dead from shock.
Well, but he's a superhero.
I'm talking about me with a tiny body and a big head.
Yeah.
I would just drop be even stronger. I would be... Oh, you would get stronger?
I would be... If I wasn't a superhero and I was 70 years in the future, I would become a superhero by the shock of how different the age is. And in 70 years, the Earth is going to be destroyed anyway.
Oh, really?
No, it'll be a new Earth by then, hopefully.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, I don't know.
Might still be here.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, so Nick Fury shows up. Oh, yeah, and he says something, but then he's like, I'm supposed to meet someone.
Yeah,
that's what Steve Rogers says. And it's like, that's a so nice ending.
And gosh darn it, that's a 6 out of 10 movie, and I like it.
Well, what was the Stan Lee cameo?
I can look it up really quick. Stan Lee's in this movie, for those of you who don't know.
I feel like this one was kind of boring.
Stan Lee thinks Cap would have been taller. That's what I wrote. So
I think it was a funny one.
I think he's like, I thought he would have been taller.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the same thing that I said, and I repeated it twice.
Okay.
But then the post-credit scene of this movie is very funny. Do you remember it? Because the post-credit scene of this movie is the first time, and I remember being like, holy crap. It was just the trailer for the Avengers.
Oh, right.
And it was like
with him
this
boxing.
summer. So that's Captain America: The First Avenger.
Wonderful.
We hope you enjoyed.
I guess not wonderful, but a really good movie.
Yeah,
we like,
comment,
subscribed, commented, shared.
No, do that to our podcast. Share it with your friends. This is very fun. I like this. And I like
talking about movies with you, the love of my life.
Yeah, you are the love of my
listener.
Life too. And I am talking to the listener on that one. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm talking to my wife on this one.
But yeah, very surprised with Chris Evans this time around because he has been my least favorite Marvel person. Like Chris Evans as an actor, but he has been my Steve Rogers
he's one of my
least favorite. But with this rewatch, I'm like, okay, Jordan.
Yeah,
I think dead wrong.
I think you're going to be on the Cap train this time.
Yeah, we'll see with Civil War. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think you'll still like him.
Yeah.
You know. So
I hate him again.
Next week we are doing Marvel's The Avengers, and that will end Phase 1. And in between Phase 1 and Phase 2, we're going to do a different series. And that series is, I'll say you say the first word, and I'll say the next word. I'm very excited about this
starring
one.
Mel
Gibson, and
who else stars in it?
Well, who's in the last one?
Oh, Tom
Hardy.
Directed by Steve.
George Miller.
Steve.
Yeah, not Steve.
Mad
Max. We're doing Mad Max, folks. It's 4 movies, and it is one of the more interesting series.
Each one is weirder than the last.
Ever been made. It is such an odd series, and I cannot wait to talk about the through line.
I love it so much.
So that is what's going to happen. One thing we didn't talk about in this episode is how this kind of translates to the bigger universe. But I think we will probably kind of cover that thread because Avengers really plays off of Captain America.
Let's end it on Mad Max.
Yeah. So Mad Max, start watching those. Those are some pretty cool movies.
You're welcome.
I'll give you a little spoiler alert. Mike is a fan of those movies.
So is Jordan.
And Jordan's a fan of those movies. And so next week we're going to do Avengers, and then we're going to rate the Phase 1 movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're jumping into Mad Max.
Thanks
George Miller, man.
for listening.
Thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe.